All right, let's bring this thing together.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Are we ready? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 38 of Talk Story. You're live on Thank You Surfing. We are here at First Surf Shop in South Beach, Miami. It's the 11th of October. We're already almost towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
And
The fall.
it's the fall. Summer's over. Hopefully that means some surf kind of picks up a little bit more. We've had a little waves last week.
Yeah.
Surf up coast has been kind of pretty decent with some swell
I heard there's waves this week too, on Monday or something.
coming up. And we've got our forecast coming up with, we don't have Brad Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do the intros first before we get ahead of ourselves. I'm Christian de la Iglesia of First Surf Shop. Do not adjust your screens. Bradley Wells is not here. He is off today because he isn't feeling well. So we'll go ahead and hope you feel better, Bradley. Filling in as our co-hosts, we have Fulvia, as well as Anouck, some of our local girls. And our guest for today is Pedro of Puro Surf down in El Salvador. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go ahead and just jump into kind of the weekly happenings for the most part and what's going on. You're in town,
Right.
and you're only in town for like a day.
Just a night.
What is that? Just you're on a layover going somewhere else?
Layover from DR. I was in DR for a couple
saw
nights.
that.
Yeah.
How are the waves?
I surfed this morning.
And
And it was like chest ahead high. Over there in
sounds
Punta
horrible.
Cana.
Oh, it was terrible.
It was fun. It was fun. There was a little wind on it, but it was fun.
All right.
Yeah, man. I had to take advantage.
And you're
For
here
sure.
just to kind of visit family, or
No, a layover and see the family, obviously. I don't get to see them that much living in El Salvador, but yeah. Just came for the night, layover, called you up, see what you're doing.
and boom,
here I
it's
am.
serendipitous. You're
There
just
you
like,
go.
well, sure enough, you've got a show going on.
Wow.
Tonight. Past that this week, not really much going on. The surf shop had its 10th anniversary little fiesta last week. We reached that 10-year marker, which is pretty epic.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. We're pretty stoked on that. Pretty stoked on that. Past that, I know moving forward, Anouck, you are traveling next week.
Shocking.
Yeah,
So
you're
I'm
always going
to the city where I was born, Paris.
In Paris.
This is my first show there as an artist. I mean, a big one. It's the FIAC, which is a modern art show. It's going to be under the glass pyramids in the Louvre. And it's just a weekend. I'm represented by an Austrian gallery.
So
Congrats.
sick.
Thank you.
If people wanted to check out your artwork now, where could they go see it?
They can go on Instagram, Anouck Jourdaa, and I'm launching my website at the end of the week, AnouckJourdaa.com.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and probably clip that onto our YouTube and
Thank you.
people kind of get it going. Fulvia, you got anything going on? Some push-ups? Some jumping jacks?
Yeah.
Maybe put somebody in a pretzel with your jujitsu?
You got it. You got it. I'm your
Sounds
girl.
scary, bro.
After the sixth beer, you might be able to do it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh, wow, they're all here.
I look at that.
Like she's
Jeez.
on
Yeah, I
We've-
support the environment, so, you know.
Yeah. Before we
Yeah.
continue to move forward, the surf shop's actually picked up a beer sponsorship as of today. We're pretty stoked on it. House Beer from Venice, California. Pretty stoked. They
Fulvia
only do
loves
one
it.
beer. They do one beer done right. And past that, it's always in good taste. So we're kind of stoked. It's a pretty good light beer. I'm pretty amped on it. And
good.
I mean, you fill my fridge up with beer, I'm not going to say no, especially when it's good beer. So thank you, House Beer, for making it happen and
Thank you.
giving us the
I thought that
kudos.
was tea.
Past that, in weekly happenings, let's go ahead and get a little red tide update. I know we spoke about it last week in regards to how bad it was here versus everywhere else. Is it something that's going to stick around? What can be done about it? And it seems like as of this week, things have been pretty mellow. I surfed on Monday, and I got a small tinge of it while I was out there, but it wasn't that bad. And as of today, I know that we've had a little southwest wind today, southwest wind kind of kicking in tomorrow. And J-Mac had kind of just showed me a picture of one of his drones, and there's no sargassum seaweed on the beach. And he said that there was no hint or any tinge of red tide in the air. So hopefully that kind of helps out a little bit. I guess when the winds turn back around east, and we'll tap in on you for the forecast that since we don't have Bradley here. Let's see how that kind of works out. But God, I'm so hoping that this is just at the tail end of what the red tide was going on the West Coast, that we don't get so much, because shit, that sucks. more than anything else. It decimates the ability to jump in the water, but business as well. Like people, and the thing is most people aren't so versed or educated on what is good or bad about. Well, there's nothing good about red tide, but what how bad or how intense it is. And at that point, there's people that kind of just fearmonger. They throw the fear out there, and that can kind of affect a lot of businesses nonetheless. So crossing my fingers that it gets a little bit better.
Well, we did surf every day last week, and there was like the red tide. But we heard some friend of us, and they didn't want to surf at all. It's like, I don't even gonna get in the water
Right.
because there's the red tide. I mean, it wasn't that bad. We survived. I didn't get sick. She didn't
Right.
get sick. It
Did
was
you
kind
feel
of-
something while you were in the water, and then when you
Yes.
got home after you showered, and then you were kind of fine?
I think Tuesday was the worst day, and when I got in the water, there was so many algae, and I was like, my throat was itchy, and I was keep coughing, and my eyes were really red.
Yeah.
But rather than that, I mean, you were out too, like nothing really happened. Yeah, I saw you out.
Right, that's
Oh, the
okay.
week before. Oopsie.
I
But
was
no, it's
fine.
like it wasn't that bad. It was doable.
It's doable.
Yes, definitely.
Right. The red tide had made Caleb's beard grow another 2 inches. So apparently there are some benefits to it.
Oh, I thought there was some algae. Oh,
It's kind of hard to tell where
I know. There's like little
Yeah,
crabs and
yeah,
little,
just-
little shrimp. Like it's like, dude, the sargassum seaweed sucks. This guy's beard's awesome. Like there's like little shrimp and little crabs in there. Like this is great. He always leaves some food around for us. Such a nice guy.
giving back to the world.
Such
trying to be environmentally.
Hey, you're giving back to the
Absolutely.
environment. That's so epic. Let's jump into forecast. There's no waves today. We had a little southeast wind swell come through on Monday. That was kind of fun.
From
And
Michael,
yes, from the storm Michael kind of cruising up the west coast. It brought some southeast winds, and that was really nice because it helped kind of clear out some of the seaweed. But the week before that, we had some east-northeast winds.
Yes.
So we've had a little surf here for like the last 10 days or so, and up coast has had some swell
Yeah.
from
of course, it was very
from
fun.
Leslie, not Leslie. I know. I say that all the time because of Chicky Dabu that he does his Instagram updates. He
Yeah.
called it Leslie, but not Leslie. I don't know. Anyways, I think it's kind of funny. But let's go into the forecast. We got Fulvia. That's
Oh
going to
my
go ahead and
God.
chime in, stepping in for one Bradley Wells.
So I do my own forecast.
I love it.
So Brad texts me a forecast, and but I'll do mine. So
Yes. Sorry, Bradley. All your science.
I'm taking the spotlight. So for this week, there's not gonna be much waves or surfing because like the wind is kind of like died out, and
Right.
this was more like a wind swell. So
Right.
that's why we were counting on the winds to build overnight. So next day we could have surfed more, and the wind is dying out, and probably I think next week we should have some wind again, but it's gonna be probably waist high up coast.
Right.
And so something is coming up, not here. I think Florida is gonna be pretty much flat, maybe knees high, but it's gonna be some surfing up coast. But I don't think worth is the drive, so we'll just stay local and probably
What
hang
size is worth the drive?
Good point.
Okay.
For you, because last week we spoke about this. I think a little
I
bit
think
of
it
like
depends on the
how
day.
far you're willing to go, or how long it's been since you
Yeah.
surfed. You give me like 2 months, you're like that waist high looks real
Really
good.
good.
Yeah.
But for you guys,
I would like to think I can surf weekly. So if there were no waves here, I would totally drive up
waist
coast
high.
for a waist high.
For
Now, if
how
it's,
long? How far would you drive up? Coast?
I would probably drive up to New Smyrna.
wow,
Yeah.
for waist high.
For waist high. Well,
Waist high with wind
4
on it.
hours.
okay, with wind on it, chop chop,
Salvador's closer than
not.
that.
If it's clean, I would go to New Smyrna. If it's like,
Glass? Yeah.
yeah, I would totally go. And then if it's like kind of chop
Would you,
chop.
and would you stay for more than a day? Would you just make it a 2-day
Yes,
kind of thing,
yes.
or
Well,
is
then
it a
it's
drive up and then come back?
We've done both.
I know you have.
I would stay overnight actually. I did it back and forward in one day, but when I was back in Miami, I was like, oh no, it's raining. And my friend's like, it's not raining. So that was the moment to stop the car and take a break. So actually we went to Ponce Inlet. And
So it's not raining. It's just in my eyes.
yes, I started saying, no, it's raining. And like 3 people in the car were like,
we're at a red light right now. You're not even moving.
Yeah, it's like,
You're like, guess I'm
pull
pulling
the car
over.
over and let's take a break. So that was like, but I did it. I don't like doing it, so I would stay probably overnight.
And it's fun
But
to stay, of
yeah,
course, too.
it is.
It is.
Not
It's
that
like a
much
mini
money.
vacation. It's a
Yes,
staycation.
yes.
It really
feels
clears
like
the
you're
thoughts,
discovering
right?
Florida
right.
another way.
Yes.
You know,
So
for a
we do
weekend,
it
it's
a lot.
amazing.
It really is. There's so many good parts of Florida that you can kind of get away for just 2 days
You
and
can camp in one of the
Right.
parks. You can do millions of things.
right, and just kind of like immerse yourself in a local. Yeah, I like doing that. I like going to like the local dive bars at those random places and like the characters that you see in certain
No,
places.
and when the
then
bills
you-
come, it's like really?
Oh my
yeah,
God,
It's
that's so
like
nice.
you're like, what would cost you $150 here
Yes.
is like $25. You're like,
and
and then you're like $20 tip. You're like baller. All of a sudden they're like, you're walking out, you just $20 tip
I'm
them.
inviting you tonight.
You're like $45 and you had
Yeah.
like 30 beers and you're like,
Yeah.
I would do this all day. And then I
That's-
would realize I was living here for a reason and it would be specifically to drink and surf. Maybe surf. No. So that's what we got. We got
So,
some
yeah,
summer-like conditions for the
not
next couple days.
Yeah.
We got some wind kicking up as of
As-
Monday. East-northeast winds, right? I think I
Yeah,
saw that.
it should be east, and then throughout the week it's gonna be east northeast.
Right,
But
so-
it's starting as east, so
Right.
and I would say more like around Tuesday. So maybe between Tuesday and Wednesday is gonna be surfable.
We have a specific time on Tuesday.
Yes, I know.
I'm kidding. So it makes it great for teaching people how to surf, throwing out the longboard, and kind of just getting wet nonetheless.
Yeah,
We're
definitely.
starting the beginning of the surf season, so it's a good way to kind of just get out there, knock off the dust on the board and
Get wet.
stretch those
Yeah.
muscles and kind of get going.
It's just the beginning.
It's just the
Stay
beginning.
positive.
Whoa! Swing by your local surf shop, rent a board. Let's go into some of our topics for today. Having Pedro here, we'll kind of discuss Puro Surf and what it is, what you created. You're down in El Salvador.
Yep.
You created a property that is beautiful and
Thank you.
gorgeous.
Thank you,
If you
thank
guys
you.
don't see it behind us, definitely check it online, purosurf.com. When you told me first about it, and then you were sending pictures and updating along the way of what it looked like, I'm like, this fucking place is great. And then when I saw you at Expo and you were kind of introducing the world to it and stuff like that, I was like, this place is proper. Then Mark went down there. I'm so bummed I haven't gone down there yet, but I've heard nothing but phenomenal stuff from people like
Thank you.
the restaurant, the quality of food, just the property altogether, and obviously the waves kind of kill it.
Yeah.
What brought you to this point to create Puro Surf?
It's a long story. I'll keep
Well,
it
right.
as brief
So,
as possible.
I mean, how long ago did the idea come up?
Well, it came up about 3 years ago.
Okay.
About 3 years ago. It basically came up when I was living in El Salvador already. I didn't move there with the plan to open Puro Surf. I did want to go and do something in the surf industry.
Right.
That's why I moved there. I moved there to surf more and to try to develop a business where I could continue surfing.
It's awesome.
And so basically, I was surfing. I met a bunch of Salvadorian friends who I would go surf with. And one of them happened to be a surf coach. And he was the person who started Puro Surf originally. And he was basically a one-man show guy who was trying to develop his own business. He was young. He was like 23, 24 years old.
Ah.
And
he's from El Salvador.
He's from El Salvador. It was actually his thesis in his college, when he went to college,
Was building this business plan.
was building an academy. He wanted to be a coach and do an academy. So then he would give me tips while I was surfing with him, casually. And these tips started to, make a difference in my surfing. And then he convinced
Were
me.
these tips, were
Yeah.
these tips based on your surfing, or were these tips based on the break itself, on saying, hey, you might want to go ahead or a combination of the both?
It was a combination of the both. I think, growing up here in South Beach and beach breaks,
Right.
we drop in and we
Right.
want
You're
to go
gunning.
fast.
Right.
We want to make the section and, get barrels.
Oh, yeah,
and-
we got to create our own speed, and we got to create that speed to be able to create the next move
Right.
into the next section. We're doing a lot of stuff, whereas because there's a lackluster in energy for the wave, right? There's not much
yeah,
going
you
on.
got to create
Right.
speed and energy
Right.
here.
Right.
I mean, beach breaks in
Right.
theory,
So a lot of times you're leading with your front foot, and you're kind of
Exactly.
just driving.
When it's barreling, not necessarily,
Right.
you know, but, you know, 9 times out of 10, you know, you have to create that speed.
Right.
You know, surfing is primarily speed.
Right.
And so I would, you know, I've surfed all my life, and, you know, I've gotten barreled here and there and had a couple maneuvers, but he would see that I would just I would outrun these waves. You know, El Salvador are primarily right-hand point breaks.
Right.
And it's a different
Goofy,
type,
regular?
Regular foot. So, you know, it's a different type of surfing. You got to kind of slow down.
Sure.
You know, and it's pocket surf.
Right.
You know?
Because you're harnessing the energy
That's
of the
one
wave
of
at
the
that
better,
point.
yeah.
Right.
Right. You're harnessing it and letting go of that energy according to where you want to be on that wave, and that is from the energy in the pocket of the surf.
Exactly.
Completely different from what
Yeah.
we're used to around here, where you're trying to generate. Because I remember the
Yeah.
first couple times I went on surf trips to the Pacific and surfed real waves. It was exactly that. It was gone. I dusted. I was like I was turbo dummy. I was like, and all of a sudden I'm kicking out. I'm like, oh, there's a whole wave still behind me going on.
Yeah, various times, like, oh yeah, you had the barrel behind you. You know what I mean? You know, you just outrun the wave, you know, and there was a perfect barrel behind you, and I was 5-10 feet in front of it.
Because
you
it's
know?
that excitement of seeing such a
Right.
nice, beautiful face in front of you, and the
You're used
speed,
to that just falling over.
right?
Right.
You
And
gotta get there.
Yeah.
and the speed, and you're just like, you want to enjoy that speed, and you're just driving, and you love feeling that energy
Right,
under, at least for me, love feeling that energy under my feet. So you're creating that speed, and then all of a sudden you're like roundhousing on just the most complete dead part of the wave, until a point where you're coming back and you've already just let go of all that energy, and the wave's energy isn't even caught up to you yet.
No, you
and
die
all of a
right
sudden
there.
you're just dead,
Yeah.
and you're like, I'll just paddle back out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was basically both. It was my surfing and the type of waves that we were surfing. And so these little things that he taught me, little tricks of the trade, and I saw a big difference right away, you know, and I bought the 10 classes from him that he wanted me to buy from him. So I was like, all right, I was that stubborn Cuban guy. I don't need no classes.
Right.
You know, I don't need to be taught. I just,
Right.
you know, I know how to surf, you know.
Right.
And I broke down and I bought the 10 classes. And by the 3rd class, I was like, what the hell?
You noticed a difference.
Oh my God, it was night and day.
Wow.
Night and day.
I want to take these classes.
Yeah, so you know, and he was starting his program, you know, so then I had bought a property and I was really contemplating what I was going to do with this property.
Right.
I-
Is this
I-
the property that you're at currently?
Right now, Puro Surf, where it's
Right.
at. And I was thinking about doing a restaurant or just like a beach club. I was just all over the place.
What
And-
was going on in that area already? Was there already stuff going on at that point that you're at now, where like you bought the property that you were like, let me create a restaurant here because obviously there's stuff going on.
Well, La Libertad, which is where I'm at, you know, in El Salvador, there's 2 areas. There's the Oriente, and then there's La Libertad. La Libertad is really close to the city. So Punta Roca, which is the most famous wave in El
Right.
Salvador, is 15 minutes from San Salvador, which is where I live. I live in the city. I don't live
Right.
on the beach.
Right.
And so El Sonte specifically is a well-known break. Okay, it's a right-hand point break, and there's beach breaks on the other side. There's another
surfed
left
that.
break, on, like to the left a little bit. So it's a wave-rich area, and it was known for a good quality wave.
Right.
But development-wise, there was nothing. There's really a couple hostels and small hotels and pupuserias, which is what we call over there, the local food.
pupusa.
And,
Nice.
Very good.
but it was all low-key, you know, not that much development going on at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you girls have gone to El Sal,
Yeah.
right? Where did you guys go?
I went to El Sonsal, El
Surf El
Zonte,
Zonte, yeah.
yes, Punta Rocas, Punta Mango, K59, K61, and that's it. And we were around La Libertad. We
Yeah.
rented a house there, and there was also a family from there living in a house next to it, just to make sure we had everything we needed. And no air conditioning, so I remember it was pretty tough on us.
No, yeah.
And but it was really beautiful. And there was a local guy, Andres, that used to live actually here in Miami, that was friend with
Quevedo.
Valentina.
Quevedo?
Yes, Quevedo. And he was always taking us in a surf spot, driving us everywhere. So we were really well treated, seriously. And because he went to school, I think, with Valentina Parada, and I went there with her. So she was the one that organized the trip, and it was a success.
Oh, is this when she would bring all the product down, the wetsuits and whatnot?
We did bring a suitcase.
And she was trying to get
with
a school bus for
equipment.
him?
I went on
And
that trip.
next year, she actually gathered all the money to,
Right.
buy a school bus in Punta Mango, and she went for that
So
trip.
I joined the trip the
Yeah.
year after. I went to Punta Mangos.
Las Flores.
Las Flores. And in Punta Mangos, we stayed with the family that Valentina was close to. We actually went with the guy from Surfrider. We gave away school supplies. We did a
Cool.
beach cleanup. With Andres Quevedo, we organized a surf contest for the third year in a row.
That must have been
with
so cool.
Yeah.
Just to see all the kids and how stoked
It
they
was
were.
beautiful. We gave as prizes surfboards that have
Mm-hmm.
been collected by Valentina.
Yeah.
So cool.
We gave classes in the morning, and I painted a wall there in the house with
And actually,
what's his name? Carlos.
Carlos Vago.
So
Yeah.
we
Oh,
painted
right on.
together.
Yeah.
He painted the wave. I painted the surfer, who's the son, the oldest son in the family. So we had a
Cool.
really good time.
And actually, I remember me and Valentina, we collected a lot of stuff here at the store. Like people was bringing here T-shirts, fins for the boards, wetsuits, anything here, and we were coming pick it up. Everybody, all the surf community came together, and she had to leave, I think, with a 5 surfboards bag. I gave a
Yeah.
surfboards too, and so other surfers, and then everybody gave so much stuff, like
But
clothing,
the flying company
anything.
also gave us deals
Yeah.
for carrying stuff because she negotiated with them. She said we're carrying stuff.
Yeah.
We had books in Spanish, in English, and then we did paint. We bought the car, Andres bought the car, and then we painted it with the kids.
Ah,
And so that truck enabled the kids to go to middle school.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So that was a
Good for you
very
guys.
cool
Good
trip.
job.
Yeah. Punta Mango was very rural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Well,
I love
I
it.
heard now it's developing more. Like,
There's a couple hotels. on
yeah, like when I went there was one, I think, and now they told me there are like 2, maybe 3. It's changing a little
Yeah,
bit,
there's like
let's
4
say.
hotels,
Yeah. So yeah, I did. There was just one at the time, but we were staying always in a house from this family, and it was pretty different. It was
loved
not
it.
commodity at all.
No, I don't
so,
mind.
but it was
Authentic. It
super
was very
fun.
authentic.
Yes, 2 of us slept in a hammock, I think, outside with the
Yeah.
bags.
You're probably
And-
better off.
yeah, and then it started raining, and I remember Vago went outside to see if they were doing good, and he didn't know if he was facing the feet or the face. It was all dark. It was like, I don't know, it was very funny. It was weird, yes.
It was
like a
very
good surf
raw.
trip.
Yes,
It was
yes.
raw. That's amazing. So, Poodle Surf seems like the kind of place that if you're just intermediate and figuring out and wanting to kind of learn a little bit more about surfing, it's a great place to go to kind of have the coaching as well as the amenities. But it's good for anybody that knows how to surf as well too. Like I know
Yeah.
my Mark, my business partner, well, former whatever, where are we at now?
Former
Former
wife.
business partner, my former wife, was down there, and it was great. And I think he went with the boys. I know Abad went down there with his kids.
Yeah.
So it really just seems like it's an amazing property to go down to any skill level, or whether you want to go on a trip with the boys, you want to go solo, and just kind of really just hone in on your skills. And at the same time, if you want to make it a family trip, it's good for that too.
Yeah, it's built for that, exactly for, I built it as my dream project, that's basically what I did, and I have a family, so I geared it towards the family, where the kids could be, in surf camp, the wife could be getting a massage, hanging out, getting in the pool.
Surfing too.
So is it right
Or
behind the
surfing as well.
Right, is right behind the property pretty safe for beginners?
Yes. There's a beach break
Like,
Right.
no, no,
right
no.
in front.
Okay.
So you can, learn on the white water,
Uh-huh.
which is where we do beginners,
Right.
and kids.
Right.
We teach them always on the white water. We don't take them out to the lineup or anything
Right.
like that. And then we have world-class right-hand point breaks for the mothers or wives, and the
Making
husbands,
progress.
So it's really, I built it for everybody, for beginners to intermediates and actually pros.
Right,
We've
and
had a bunch of
on the
pros
pro
come.
level, you have the academy that's there. So you guys videotape people, right?
Absolutely, that's a big part.
Right, and then you guys
Video
coach
analysis.
people afterwards. You guys do some analysis and
Yeah,
stuff like
absolutely.
that. Do you guys tap into nutrition? Do you guys tap into like workouts that are specific?
Absolutely. That's what we have a fully functional gym. So we do specific surf exercises. Marcelo, who's the director of the academy, who's the head coach. He'll it's a questionnaire. He'll make you fill out a questionnaire on your first day.
So he can kind of feel you out, see where
Fill
you're
you out,
at,
see how you feel about your surfing as well, which is
Right.
very important.
Right.
And then he'll take you out surfing. He'll video you, and then after a couple sessions, he'll start learning about you
Right.
and your needs and
Cool.
where you're strong physically,
Right.
mentally,
Right.
And your skill level, and then he'll do his best to try to
Tighten you up a little
exactly,
How-
and
How do you pay attention to the questionnaire? This is a question because we went to Maldives this summer, and before making the reservation, I wanted like a intermediate, place where to surf. And the lady made us fill out how many years have you been surfing, how many times a week, how many times a year, which is your level, have you ever surfed head high? So we fill out all this questionnaire, and then when we went there, this little boat that was barely making it to the lineup was stringing in the water with double overhead barrels. So, and that was based on the questionnaire we filled out. So it's like,
There was almost no day that was gentle.
no.
It was very nice.
And they
I feel
were
like
and they
we
were
put
putting
a
out
lot.
people whether you're intermediate or expert on the same
And
wave.
She
Yeah.
sold us the trip saying it was actually intermediate, and there was a spot where you could always go as beginners.
You can walk there.
So we were like, oh, we're gonna
Walk on the
warm
reef.
up in the beginner spot the first 2-3 days,
Yeah.
and then we were saying 2 weeks. We were like, when we feel good, we'll paddle out in. There was never such a thing.
Right. They just put you into the big stuff right
For the
away.
record.
Like, so this is the main break.
Yeah.
Have fun.
For
Good
the
luck.
Yeah.
The
Watch out
record,
for the reef.
Right.
the
Yeah.
beginner spot was Sultan. So please, I never heard such a thing. If she told me would have told me that it was Sultan, I would Google it and find out that it's not a beginner spot because it's not. I was like, yeah, you can walk there, So if it's too big, you just walk there and you have fun. Sultan. It's like-
Jailbreak, you mean?
Jailbreaks, yeah. So it's like, no. I was like, it's not such a
So
thing.
it kind of brings up a good point. Like, so if
Wow, smooth transition.
well, it's
Working
Bradley,
the
you'll be
magic.
stoked on
Bring
that
it.
one.
Bring it.
No, just going into like, how does one know what they're kind of getting into, right? I mean, you guys went to this Maldives trip,
Yeah.
and you had expected, you filled out the questionnaire, you expect something, you kind of get a little different. I'm sure that happens plenty in a lot of different places.
well, you got Mother Nature, right?
Right. But nonetheless, within that, there are certain places that, regardless if Mother Nature is going XL or small, you know that spot is relatively softer
Yeah.
Yeah,
than other areas and stuff like that. That's
Different
why
types of breaks,
people are paying into a certain package because they're using your local knowledge and saying, all right, well, what are you looking for? Well, how do you grade yourself on a surfing skill or level? Okay, this is the kind of wave you should be going after.
Right.
It sounds like you guys are doing everything that's right. It sounds
We
like
try
you,
to, at least.
right. It sounds like you
Could
guys
I
had
be wrong?
a challenging moment and stuff like that. But I wonder in searching like the Zoltan or whatever it was that they had said as far as the break goes, you kind of look at it and you said, yeah, this doesn't look like an intermediate kind of spot more than
But
anything
that
else.
tricked me because the boat came from behind the wave. So I was just seeing like this roll going. I was like, okay. It's like I didn't see. It's like you see somebody's making the dough, but you're not really seeing it. So
Right.
you see your mom doing like this. It's like,
Right.
okay, it's making the dough. So I was seeing this wave unfolding toward the
Right.
the
Okay, so
shore
they're bringing
from
to the
behind.
spot from behind.
So I was
dropped
like,
your gun.
what do you think? She was like, I think we can do it. I was like, okay. So I would like jump with the board, jump on, paddle out, and then I had like these walls like in front of me. It's like, it was crazy. So, but we did it. So it was really nice, but still. Our guide, I don't think, was that prepared. So I think, from what I heard, you are really on top of it, and okay, you're a beginner, you do this, and you make also some training. You said also you have a skateboarding classes.
That's right. You guys have a skate
We
ramp, don't
built
you?
a concrete wave. That's what we call it, concrete wave.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, we
I
use
would love to
we
go.
use Carver skateboards.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever been on one?
I have not.
You should try it, man. It's a game changer.
One of our local
Really
guys,
bad fall.
Jason.
Demo
That one I have, but that's like an way older. That almost is like a traditional longboard. I mean, I don't consider like I've seen the new Carvers and I jumped on one. I've jumped on one and stuff like. I don't ride it consent, but I'm like that's loosey goosey for sure.
No, it's just like surfing. It's real surfing on land. It's amazing.
Nice phrase.
So we have a concrete wave, and we kind of emulated it based off of Carver's Park, like little skate ramp that they have. We had to because of the configuration of our land. So we had to make it a little bit bigger, but it has basically two small bowls with a higher vert area and then more of a flat area, where the higher vert is the lip, and then the more softer side is where you bottom turn. So basically, you can go front side or back side either way. Do full house cutbacks.
Does it feel like surfing?
It's exactly like surfing.
Wow.
So
Did Mark try it when he was over there?
I think so, but late at night.
Right. Nobody was looking. He didn't want anybody to
we don't
see.
worry about that.
No, I think it was like after maybe a
Wow.
couple beers or something. But
Like for instance, I never skate. So if you wanna teach me something surfing related, what would you make me practice? I don't know.
I would, on a flat piece of land, I wouldn't throw you on the ramp right away. You know,
Okay.
You start, and we put cones.
Okay.
And then so you start trying to do
Slaloming.
Right, you
Okay.
slalom around the cones, and you start getting the feel for the Carver skateboard, which is very similar to surfing. So once you get the hang of that, and then you can maybe go down the sides of it, which is it's not
It's got a little embankment.
little
so,
embankments.
right.
Like we won't throw you down,
Right.
right away, until you feel comfortable, and
Or you're a jerk. They will throw you down. Like, yeah, no, you're fine.
so.
JK.
Okay.
It's
note.
for me it was a game changer because you really get to feel the pumping,
Right.
and,
Yes.
and the flow, speed, power, and flow, which
Right.
is our
Yep,
three
yep.
main feelings that we
Yes.
want while we surf, and that
Speed, power,
allows you to practice when you're not
Yeah.
surfing,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
When you surf on a session
power,
in
flow.
Osada, which we have point breaks, you can catch quite a few waves a session, but then you can multiply that times 2 or 3 times outside. So, we try to warm up on the skate park, get your legs warm, get the feeling going, get everything going. We go out and surf, we video you. We go back to the gym, we do different exercises, whether it's the balance board,
Right.
anything like that, out of the water or in the gym. And then we go back to the skate park in the afternoon, and then you practice that.
Right. Because when I've taught people how to surf, I let people know that what you're trying to do is create muscle memory
Absolutely.
with surfing. You're doing it repetitively enough so that eventually it's just instinct that kind of kicks in. Whether it's your body doing a couple cinching down on your board because you're a little too far forward, you kind of get that, and that's amazing that with skating and just even videotaping people, you're able to go ahead and see what your positioning is. Right, your leg positioning. Is your stance too wide? Is your stance too
Your
narrow?
pop-up,
Right, your pop up and stuff like that. And if you just practice those little things, it becomes second nature.
That's
And
why
all
I
of a
keep
sudden kind of
falling.
Natural.
I
It
train
becomes
my
more
body
natural.
to
Right,
fall.
right.
That makes
Body
sense.
memory.
And for all of those that may not know a lot of the speed, power, and flow that you say, back in the day, it used to be light, loose, and low. It was the 3 L's they used to have.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what the basis of surfing when they were trying to teach you how to surf was just like, stay light on your feet, stay loose altogether, and stay low on your board. Because, the lower center of gravity, the more that you
Absolutely,
actually
yeah.
stick to that for the most part. But speed, power, flow has a lot to do with that as well, where, you're kind of harnessing every single one of those things
Listening.
and whatnot. So it kind of brings us into this next segment in regards to training people and learning and what you guys are doing out there and how you guys are approaching it. Do you run into a situation out there where you have beginners that go out that aren't part of the surf camp? Or I'm sure you probably run into it at some point where you have people because we know we have it here. You have people that want to learn how to surf. They're not taking surf lessons. They're just picking up a board on Craigslist or OfferUp and for a couple dollars, and they're getting out there and they're just saying, I'm going to watch what other people do
They can
and I'm going to
also
try to
rent
make it
here.
happen.
Which is how we learn how to surf.
Right, for the most part.
Yeah.
But, in different places, it can be a little bit more dangerous than others.
Absolutely.
And the danger could be in whether it is rocks and reef and stuff, or the danger could be in the close proximity of how many swimmers you have to surfers, because that's one of the challenges we have out here is, you know, everyone is kind of mixed together. When the tide gets real shallow, swimmers can kind of walk out and they feel like they're in a big wave pool. They love the waves, but they're right in the middle of the spot where surfers are kind of taking off nonetheless. And we've had a couple incidences where, you know, one of our local girls got cut pretty bad on the head from fin, and had to get like 28 stitches or something along those
38.
lines. 38?
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And then like within a couple days afterwards, we had another girl that didn't have a leash on her board and lost her board, and the board kind of popped up and hit her in the nose and gave her a little bit of a bloody nose, but the board rolled in. And you start thinking, you're like, where do people get their education from? And how do they get it? Like, I know that growing up, it was school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
You know, it was, if you went out there and you're like, and you're paddling out, you know, all the local guys was like, they knew that you didn't know what you were doing. They're like, haul ass. They're like,
Get out of the water,
they're telling you like, nah, you're going down there. And I know for us here, in order to kind of keep the peace, when renting boards and we're kind of sizing people up on whether they know what they're doing or not, I'm like, all right, well, what's your skill level? All right, well, go out there. Wherever you see a lot of people, go somewhere else. There's plenty of area. Find a spot that's a little bit mellower. The waves will be a little smaller, but what do you need real waves for? You're kind of figuring it out nonetheless.
I started 8 years ago, and for 4 years, I did not surf by First Street. For 4 years, I stayed by myself by 4th Street. And if I saw people next to me, I would paddle away from them because I didn't want.
Was that instinct? Did anybody tell you this beforehand?
Well, I grew up bodyboarding in France, so I know when you are dangerous or not. I knew I didn't have the knowledge or the skills, and I knew I was dangerous. So I just thought, practice there, feel comfortable, and then when you feel good about it, maybe you can get closer to people. Now I'm comfortable being out there. You see me more than in the past, but I'm sure for 4 years you had no idea I was surfing.
Right.
I was always by myself there,
Right.
past the orange booth. And I would recommend that for beginners. It's like when you're skiing. When you're skiing, you're discovering on the kid zone, you know, like
The bunny slopes.
the bunny slopes.
Right.
And you practice that until you feel good about it.
Right.
You don't go on the black slope right away. And some people forget because surfing is so cool and the waves
Right.
look so friendly.
Right, and because it's kind of where our break is
And
a little
it
bit
gets
closer and
very
it's easy to
dangerous
get out there.
because they can hit you
Right.
or they can run over people.
Right.
It makes me feel very nervous when I see beginners in the water.
Were there resources that you tapped into when you were learning? Did you read online? Did you do stuff in advance? Did you ask people questions? Or did you just go out there and said, I'm just going to figure this out?
Okay. Most of the part was figuring it out by myself in the water. I do not think there's anything better than practicing getting out there. A lot of friends that wanted to learn asked me, can you teach me how to surf? I can show you once or twice, but if you really want to learn, you have to get your own board, like get your own car when you learn how to drive, and then paddle out as many times as you can.
Sure, commitment.
Observing,
Right.
but not sitting right next to the person.
Right.
We were talking about that, like paddling every time a surfer paddles. That's not observing. That's actually sitting on the side or standing from outside the beach, looking at it or watching videos. But you don't do that when you're a beginner, sitting right in the middle of everybody and being a danger to everybody. If a bigger wave comes, you just throw your board or
Right.
you move back. I had a guy going back on me, losing control of his board. I was duck diving like 20 feet behind. He landed on my face. It's dangerous.
Right.
If you can get up on the white water, you know, don't go outside. You know what I mean?
But you know, it's not even about standing up. I think sometimes it's, maybe you can stand up, but you have to know the rules of surfing,
Like etiquette?
the ride off.
etiquette,
Right.
yeah.
So who has priority and why? Because sometimes like there are beginners and they see you paddling, they think, oh, that's a good wave. I'm paddle too, and they would keep going and go straight. So basically, they drop on you because they don't know there's a priority. I learned because somebody told me. When I first started surfing, I remember I had like my cousin longboard one time, and then I got always my shortboard. And Oscar, old school surfer, that longboards told
Yep.
me, girl, you know, you're nice, maybe, but you have to go and surf the white water. Don't stay here with us. And I was like, I guess we're not gonna be friends. And I went in the white water. And then little by little, I was staying like down there, and I was looking at the surfer like reaping, and I was like where the waves were bad. But at least somebody told me, and then I understood why, because I was a danger. Actually, I'm still am. But
She is.
I was really dangerous. And sorry, Jay, I broke your arm, but it was an accident. I actually did for real. Like Jay broke his wrist.
No way.
Yeah, because I dropped on him, and he was on a longboard, and he had like really to put a cast on it. So I was really dangerous. So just let me go, guys. On a north swell.
Yeah, just don't get in her way.
Yeah,
just move out.
it's like,
That might be actually a great way to go ahead and make sure that you get as many waves as possible. You're like,
Yeah.
guys, I am really dangerous.
I am. It's like I'm a little loco, But besides that, like somebody told me, so I was surfing the white water, and then little by little, I was, going closer and closer, and when I was feeling more confident, and obviously, yeah, I'm still dangerous. I mean, accidents they happen all the time. It's not something you can control. There are too many variables. Like there's the ocean, and then there's the wind, there's the surfer, there's the crowd. So many things that sometimes just a really good surfer can control. So me, I'm still like intermediate, maybe beginner/intermediate, but I see the danger right now, and I see people that surf less than me. I don't feel like I could tell them anything, because I don't feel like my level is good enough. But whoever has more experience with me, I think should speak up and say, look, like you should probably go and surf more to the left or more to the right. I don't know, depending how the swell is, but educate them.
Actually, beautiful and natural segue is, whose responsibility is it really to kind of teach people, new people, etiquette, know-how, all of it? With
I
just
feel
the ins and outs of the local break, is that
as
up
a
to the
girl-
local? Is it up to the local surf
Yeah.
shops? I
As
mean, is it a
girl,
combination?
It's been easier to talk to people, and I try to do it before accidents happen. I also teach, so I know that people don't always want to hear advice. You have to use the right words in the right tone, so you don't bruise their ego or, get them, hurt their feelings. So instead of antagonizing them, I actually talk to them before. Like if I see, the other day I saw a girl that looked completely lost, and I was always in the middle where we were landing. I talked to her nicely before anything happened, and I told her, can I give you some advice? But nicely and as a question. And she was desperate to hear it. She was like, yes, please. She was like, the hair all over her face. She didn't know what she was doing. I think she was actually ready for a real surfing lesson, which I didn't want to do.
Right.
But I told her nicely, you are right where all the surfers are landing.
Wait, that was me.
Oh, there she is.
Wait, I thought we were having that conversation. That is so weird. Oh,
That's where I know you from.
so I'm the beginner.
Well, it was not Fulvia.
Yeah, that's
so,
funny.
I told that girl to move where there were less people. We didn't have time to expand on that, but I'm going back to that point. I took 4 years before I fell out mingling with people.
Right.
You always put it on other surfers too. You can be like, well, I'm fine with you being here, but there's some aggressive people in the water. You might want to like.
Yeah, but that's
you're
not
dropping on
the real
wrong
teaching,
person.
though.
You might get put like you need
Right.
to be careful.
Is that-
I'm cool. but
Right.
Watch out for the other guys.
Because a lot of how Pedro and I grew up around here was, again, school of hard knocks. Like, I remember surfing down here, and your Jack Gamblins and your Hams and your Jimmy Peps, and then up at Hollover I would surf, and you had all these other guys. You had the Croup brothers and all these other guys that, like, back then, they would straight up punch a 15-year-old in the face and be like, get the F out of here. And you're just like, wow, I guess
wow.
that's happening.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's not.
When's the last
I'm
time-
just going to go surf with it, and they can't do that these days.
When was the last time you saw that happen?
Right. No, you haven't, right?
it's
And
not
things
the
have
right
gotten a lot
way
nicer.
either. Yeah.
Absolutely. There will be purists, right? Purists will say there's still a necessity to kind of have a little bit of an edge in the water. You get to have that
Especially when the waves are good.
pecking order, that person that is the loudmouth. We all know one that's a loudmouth in the water that's like, nobody better get around me. Nobody better fucking surf next to me because I'm going to fucking kill
Who
you.
is that? No.
Sorry, with the F and the K.
I know it's that.
Yeah. So, there's a couple people that and it's died out over the years here and there. It's not as bad. And I think there's a little bit more etiquette in the water. I think there's, even for some of the older guys that were a little harder on people maybe
softer
15,
now.
20 years ago, age has softened them a little bit and allowed for them to kind of be like, that's not, whatever, like people learning.
I think it should be every surfer's responsibility.
Yeah, you cannot count on the others to say something.
No, I think it's if you see something, you say something. You know what I mean? Where
That's what
you
they
want
say.
to be good.
Right.
And
We're kind of the only ones out there, so we have to self-police.
yeah,
And
you're not trying to be a bad person or uncool or anything. You're just
You're
trying to
preventing
avoid.
accidents.
And I think being a
Accidents.
surfer down here, we have to recognize that surfing is not a built-in cultural thing in the DNA of everybody that lives here, right? There's a lot of places, California, Hawaii, and whatnot, that there's generations of surfing or fishing or boating or some sort of waterwoman life within your family, and that's not the case down here. It's taken a while to be able to even see a lot more women in the water down here, to see a lot more kids in the water surfing down here. And I'm stoked to see a lot more of it. I feel that it allows for all of us to kind of pass that torch, to maybe create those generational moments where you're passing it on to your kid and they eventually pass it on to something else.
Look at Marley,
Right. Marley, we've got a lot of younger kids that are kind of coming up. You have April's son Tyler, is getting to that point as well. You have our intern Keegan, he's kind of getting to that point. You have Annie Two Rogers' son Kai that surfs, and he's just becoming a young man as well. You see all these kids that are kind of coming up and doing stuff, and it's exciting to watch. And I feel like maybe as a surf shop, I need to step up in my responsibility to be able to maybe host something once a month where we just say, hey, introduction to surfing, and people come here and we throw a little video on and we kind of talk about just the basics, right?
Yeah.
Etiquette. What do you do when you're paddling out and
And
someone's catching a wave? Where do you
to
want
the
to put
kids.
yourself on that portion,
I can give you all that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll take that and we'll create that, because I think, you can't just talk the talk, you got to walk the walk.
Absolutely.
And for us, I think, being
be
that
a leader in it.
we're the only surf shop in this given area, we probably have that responsibility to kind of at least
And
have the
whenever
information
you
out
rent
there.
a board as well.
Right.
When you rent a board,
Right.
having that little conversation with
Right.
the person.
I know
Let them
myself,
spread out,
right.
you
I know
know?
myself and Jovan that work here. We kind of size people up and whether or not where they're
Yeah.
at, and we'll tell them little things like, again, if you see a lot of people, paddle away from that. We'll give them a brief rundown on such a basic understanding of surfing. But I think maybe we can have like an etiquette board, or kind of what they have at Fort Pierce as soon as you walk out
The
and
sign.
whatnot,
Yeah,
and
the
have it
sign.
on the front window so that people walking by can kind of just read it. I think
Yeah.
the more information we give people, the better off those of us that know how to surf will be, because we won't have to deal with certain things like that.
What were you
Ta-
saying for kids?
No, if you do a tutorial for kids, probably you should tell them that they have to give priority to all the older ones.
Right. Well, I think tradition is a big thing as well, right? So
Tradition.
there's that pecking order and
Exactly.
understanding. It's like,
Seniority.
listen, seniority.
Yeah.
It's like, you come out there, but there's people who've been doing this for a long time.
It's a reality.
And, right. And at that point, you've got to give respect to your elders in that thing. And it's not just any other kind of sport where, your skill level might be a little bit better than others. You might excel a little bit quicker. But you've got to take the cues from the elders that accept that and say, okay, I acknowledge, I'm recognizing that you're a little bit better than most. I'll absorb you. I'll bring you into this factor. You
gotta earn
cannot
it.
dictate
You
it.
gotta
Right?
earn it.
You've got to earn it.
Yeah.
And they've got to go ahead and bring you into the process. And I think those are some of the purest things about the sport that we love and enjoy and do that needs to maintain, that gets kind of passed on.
We met Dan this summer in Maldives, and he's from Australia. He's 50 years old, and he was telling us that when he started surfing, there were like steps, like you were like a grooms, and then little by little, the better you were becoming, the more you were going close to the peak with the elder one. But you had always to respect, and the elder would like kind of give you a ceremony, okay, now you can go, you are a good level, you know the rules. And I think it's kind of nice though. I know now it's more like, oh, we're all equal, we start, we
Right.
try, whatever. But it's nice to have like a passage,
There's
where you
a section in the movie
That's
North Shore from the 80s that's like that,
That's
where
exactly that.
where Chandler's teaching Rick Kane how to surf, and he's got this garage full of different boards, from the old school Hawaiian board
remember, yeah.
down to like guns, down to short boards, and he kind of just worked them on every single one. And a lot of that is to understand rail lines on boards, how different boards function. I still tell people, I'm like, try all the boards, surf them all, figure it out, because they all ride a little bit different nonetheless, whether it's a fun shape or a long board or a mini Simmons or something that's fatter. You know, all those little things will kind of help you understand the craft, and then in turn help you understand how you approach that nonetheless. Going back to surf schools, you know, in the conversation we were kind of having before we went on air, a little of the pros and cons. You know, like, you know, it was interesting to hear what you were saying in France in regards to the fact that there's so many surf schools on a lot of the main breaks.
I grew up with maybe one surf school in the whole region. And now when I go back home every summer, there's maybe 4 or 5 surf schools per beach. And it's at the point where I get anxiety. Like I paddle out at 6 in the morning.
And how many people are in these schools, just to kind of give an idea?
Okay, you are from 6 to 6:30, because now they paddle out at 6:30 or 7 in the morning. You're enjoying your first waves and suddenly you see 40 people.
40.
All of them carrying foam on their heads. And they paddle out right where you are, and they stay right where you land because they catch the white water.
And is there no etiquette between the surf school and the locals and say,
No,
hey,
and actually it's even worse because contrary to here, the swimmers are kings in France. So you cannot surf where the swimmers are. And most of the time within these limits are the best waves because they choose the sandbars, which are safer. So when at 10 a.m. they start the lifeguards on duty, you have to leave wherever you were surfing. And the rest of us is for us to fight, surf schools and surfers.
So as soon as the lifeguards show up, there's a lot of
That's it.
breaks that go
Exactly.
no
You
surfing.
cannot surf these until 6 or 7 p.m. And if you catch a nice right and it lands
Into
within
the
those
swim
2
area.
blue flags,
You
they
get whistled.
yell at you. Sometimes they even paddle out, and they can break your boards. My dad was a lifeguard for many
Right.
years, and he broke boards. Took the guys out, broke their boards on the sand.
Right. As a foreigner, would I laugh if a lifeguard came out and yelled at me in French?
You wouldn't.
Alors,
Well, I was just like,
I would think so.
s'il vous plaît?
Well, you get forbidden to surf.
Oh, really?
It's that bad. That's also one of the reasons why I bodyboarded for so long as a kid, because bodyboards can go everywhere.
Right, and that, you know,
So
they
you
have
don't
that in
care.
California. They have
Yeah.
blackballed beaches, which is the soft top company, Catch Surf, was kind of a lot of their success was that they created the Beater 54 originally, and that was, you know,
can be
a
anywhere.
soft top board that was a boogie board, but you could surf it because they said, oh, it's got to be boogie board material, foam,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, no
Yeah.
problem,
Game on.
we'll do that, and and they've kind of grown through that process. Does that work? Is that okay, you think? I mean, can you get a foam top surfboard and be able to
If you're
use it, or
surfing it, they will
Probably
see
stop you,
you
yeah.
and stop you. They're really not surfer friendly.
right? They're
The
like, no, no,
lifeguards
no. We
are
know that works in
really
America, but not here,
They're
boy.
not surfers? The lifeguards aren't surfers?
Few of them, but if they are, they have to follow the rules anyway, which are very strict. Swimmers come first.
Wow.
So
So do most locals?
Sounds like it adds an extra element of excitement.
It's like chess to the
well,
next level.
I body surfed and bodyboarded all my childhood because that way I was safe. If you still want to enjoy the glides and not be bothered by the crowds, be a body surfer or bodyboarder in France.
Also, let's say you're from Biarritz, and waves can be very challenging. So I think the lifeguards also
Yeah,
has to go
we
through a
have people
lot.
dying, drowning
Yeah.
every year. Like, it's very dangerous. It's way more dangerous than what we get here. So,
Also, the
But because of the
currents you
waves.
have.
yeah.
Right. I mean, the beach break there is heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy.
And it
I haven't
gets
surfed
really
there, but
deep
I've looked
there.
at it. I've heard
Me
plenty of
neither.
stories, and it's just like,
Can't wait to go.
yeah.
Down
It's-
in Florida there right now.
oh, they are.
Yeah, we're in Hossegor right now.
Right now, the contest is on, right?
WSL.
That's right. Well, I think they postponed it till the 12th
No,
for the next swell.
Oh, maybe. Till
Well,
Saturday.
no. I mean, they've started it,
Right.
but they postponed the next couple
Till
heats until the
Saturday,
next
yeah.
swell comes in. I think on Saturday and whatnot.
Oh, wow.
So most people in France that are core surfers don't like the surf schools. Obviously,
No.
Does it ever erupt into fights at all, or is it kind of just like people are just? It's been happening for such a long time. People are just like, whatever. I'm just going to deal with it, and I'll surf
but
somewhere
I
else.
would say I hate to say that live, but I've never really liked the mentality of surfers in my country. I do think a lot of the surfers out there are very arrogant, and I actually have enjoyed the surfer mentality here more. I thought it was way more friendly, way more open. But whenever you have more and more people in the water, people become more aggressive.
Sure.
You know, so
Yeah, it's that pack rat
it's
mentality.
always about spreading out and choosing your hours. You can be a very friendly person if you have to share the waves with 10, 15 people. But if you have 40 surrounding you, you become more aggressive. It's normal. So that's what happens in France. I think our spots are saturated.
Right. And I know from traveling to Costa Rica a bunch and just looking at the surf camps they have in Santa Teresa, Hermosa, and Malpais area, you know, it's pretty competitive amongst within surf schools and stuff like that as well. And it seems like they all have their certain breaks that they all kind of go to, and everyone kind of, once you get into a routine, everyone seems to understand, especially when it's beach breaks, there's large areas and whatnot. I mean, you guys have some beach break, lots of point breaks.
Tons of beach breaks.
Right, okay.
Mostly everybody serves point breaks over
Right.
here, so we take.
So is it pretty decent separation between the people that are learning in those areas and the areas that are better, that the guys that know how to surf don't really have to be bothered by people that are learning?
Yeah, we don't take any beginners to any point breaks. So we go find the empty beach breaks that nobody goes and surfs, and we teach everybody in the whitewater,
Right.
you know, by themselves. And as a beginner, that fear factor is something very negative, you know, and we want to take all those elements out, you know. We just want them to have a good time, you know, and in order to do that, we don't go anything deeper than waist high water, you know, so that they never have the fear of drowning, you know. So if they fall off the board, they can just put their feet down, everything's okay. So yeah, there's different steps in our program that you have to graduate from, you know, in order to get out to the lineup and surf a point break.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think we all should have certain measures and points of hitting before you kind of take it to that next step. I think it's great for people to kind of aim towards things, and it shouldn't be just like, oh, it's just completely easy and anyone can kind of do it, and anyone should be able to get into it.
Right.
Not anyone can do it, and there's challenges out there, and besides the physical ones of kind of figuring out how to surf, but there's a lot more behind surfing than just the sport. There's a lot between the etiquette and the history of it, the local history, as well as the history of it internationally in the different areas, and how that all applies. You know, so I think all of us as people that are in the water should take that opportunity to look at people that you recognize obviously are having either a hard time or they're putting themselves in a really crap situation, and saying, hey, it might be a little better if you do this. Like I know I've told plenty of people when they're paddling and the nose of the board's really high and they're kind of just like dragging butt and whatnot, and you're like, hey, shift a little bit, and then explaining to them why, not just, hey, do this. Understand the mechanics. That's the whole point of surfing, is understanding how it all works.
Anticipating accidents.
Right.
When you are reacting to getting hurt or getting hit by the board, you're not teaching people anything. You're just reacting in anger. So it's better to anticipate it and tell them beforehand. You see it right away. You tell them, look, I think it would be better you go a little further down the beach.
Right.
Nicely, before you get to scream at people. I think.
Well, it's been a little bit since we had some surf, so we know that whenever the waves do pick up, like good swell and whatnot, it gets a little aggro out there. Even, God, I've surfed here my whole life, and I know everybody in the lineup, and I know that I get kind of bummed out sometimes because it's like, you're fighting with people that are your friends for waves, and you're jockeying for position, and it becomes like a feeding frenzy where everyone's eyes are just rolled back, and we're all sharks and like rah 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 rah, and just kind of going after it, and it gets sometimes a little dangerous and whatnot and whatnot. So, but it's part of what we do, nonetheless.
Yeah. It's all about energy, really, and having positive energy.
Right.
And if you have that positive energy, you're going to surf better and have a better time.
Yeah.
That negativeness and all that, it's no bueno for yourself.
Right. And at the end of the day, aside yourself, like, look what you're kind of, like, I've taught a couple people how to surf, and in my time, and it's for me that's kind of gotten me so stoked. Like that moment where that person gets to their feet,
Yeah.
they kind of realize they're walking
You
on
hoot 'em
water,
on, yeah.
and then all of a sudden they look back and they're just like, and you're just like,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden you remember what that feeling was like when you first started, and you're like,
Stoked.
and how you're still doing it 20, 30, 10 years later, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, this is an endless love.
That's
This-
surfing.
right. And
That's what
and
surfing
that's
should
what I
be
tell
for
people,
everybody,
right.
yeah.
And it's different for everybody. And I think maybe sometimes crowded areas lets people tap into that one part of surfing that's awesome, which is the traveling, the exploring, the kind of figuring out the different new areas. Once you feel comfortable with being able to do that,
Yeah.
while you guys went to the Maldives, even though you guys might have felt a little out of place at first when the waves or whatever, it was an experience.
Yeah.
You know, it was an experience that you guys didn't have before, and challenged you, and you were able to kind of look back on it and reflect and kind of take some of the good and the bad out of that and apply it accordingly.
I became very religious. I was very religious.
Dear Lord, if you let me get this really gnarly
Yeah.
in section right now,
Yeah, I
I'd
started
be
talking
so
to the
stoked.
waves. No, please. It was, yeah. People was like, wait, what? And I was like, no, please. Like, I swear. And then I prayed a lot.
And they're like, lady,
Yeah.
it's waist high, come on!
You know, like I live, love, surf, and pray.
Yes.
That was like my trip, you know. So
Love,
definitely.
surf, and pray.
That's so awesome. It was such a great conversation.
Yeah.
Pedro, I'm so stoked that you came down.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Ladies, I'm so stoked that you got to co-host.
Oh, thank you.
Brad, looks like
We
you
miss
lost.
you, man.
Just texting me right now.
Oh, Brad, it looks like you
He's
might have lost your
crying.
job. Sorry, the ladies are good.
Yeah, man.
And their segues are awesome. And
We had the
whatnot.
Smooth transitions.
Yeah, it's so smooth.
But definitely, we want to know more about your surf academy.
Absolutely. Definitely check it out. PuroSurf.com.
Because it's not just a school, it's actually an academy.
Yeah.
So it's a different concept from
Right.
any other surf school. And we ask about the prices and everything, the week, the packages, if you want to be just like in the hotel, if you want to do like breakfast, if you want to be in the dorm, if you want to take the full package with skating. And I think throughout probably your social media or Chris, we should let everybody know because we
Absolutely.
want to do it for
The
sure.
link will be in in our hookup on,
Yeah, not a
on
school,
the description for
an
this. and-
academy. So
Yeah.
it's the
And
first
whatnot.
time I
And
heard
You don't
that.
have to
so-
stay with us to
Right.
go to the academy.
Right.
So, you know, we're
Yeah.
open to
But
the
we
public.
want to stay with you.
Oh, we
Oh yeah, I wanted that. The property looks
It
phenomenal.
looks
you.
good.
And
we want to go there too.
Awesome.
Yeah,
We want to have you there.
yeah, it's a
Alright.
different concept. It's so smart, you know.
Thank you.
So definitely,
It's something different for sure.
and maybe I learn to surf. I don't know.
All right, well, I'm going to walk us out here. Ladies and gentlemen, that was episode number 38.
You.
Yeah.
It is the 11th of October. We're here at First Surf Shop in South Beach, Miami. This is Talk Story of Thank You Surfing. Brad Wells, we miss you. We've got Pedro
Cheers.
right next to me from Puro Surf. Definitely
Cheers.
check them out, purosurf.com. Anouck and Fulvia, thank you again.
Thank you.
To our new beer sponsor for the shop, House Beers out of Venice, California. They do only one beer, and it's one beer done right, and it's always in good taste. Thank you very much, Caleb. Thanks for making things happen. I'm Christian Della Iglesia from First Surf Shop.
And approve this message.
Go surf.
It's